Hey y'all, Lance from Permanent Records back again with another video. It has been a long, hot week here in Los Angeles, but it's been a really good one for records. We just picked up a massive record collection. Like I told you in a previous video, we will oftentimes comb through any record collection that's offered to us and price out each individual record piece by piece, and that's what we did that exactly for this particular seller. Over the course of 2 days, 2 long days at their house, Tara and I went through each individual record, priced it out, and offered them a ton of money, and they left the transaction very happy. We did too. We are going to be showing that collection off in a future video, so if you don't already subscribe to this channel, now would be the time to do so. I believe you can subscribe somewhere down there below. While you're at it, please leave me a comment so we can chat about this video or anything else that you might want to talk about, and ring that bell as well. That all of that combined helps us keep this channel sustainable, helps us stay in touch with you, so on and so forth. You know the drill. All right, so this week we got a fresh batch of recent arrivals over to my right here. As I said before, every week we put out 700, 750 to 1,000 used recent arrivals. So without further ado, let's get into some of the highlights of this week's batch of recent arrivals. Brian Eno, you can never have enough Brian Eno in the shop. In any shop or in your collection. This is one of his greatest, taking Tiger Mountain by Strategy. Brian Eno, as you know, he was an original founding member of Roxy Music. He did amazing ambient electronic music as well, and just an overall musical genius with his oblique strategies cards. He's just a unique artist, idiosyncratic. He is an icon for sure. And this album is absolutely fantastic. Where should I put these? I don't know. All right, we'll put them there for now. Okay, moving right along. Brian Eno is a household name, but Will Powers is not. This album is called Dancing for Mental Health, and that is exactly what it is. This is a dance record, but the lyrics are all mental health based. As far as I understand, or what my recollection of the story behind this record is that Will Powers was an actual motivational speaker, and he made this album as kind of a musical motivational speech for mental health. And this is a really fun record. I highly recommend it. It will get you moving and also help lift your spirits and keep people on the dance floor wondering what the hell is going on lyrically with this album. Will Powers is so cool. That record is highly recommended. On a very, very different tip, my hair is just out of control right now. The X were a Dutch post-punk band, and Tom Cora was a cellist, I believe. This album, the first time I heard it, it blew me away. It still knocks me out every single time I listen to it. The X and Tom Cora collaborated for this album, Scrabbling at the Lock, sometime in the early 80s. It's just a stunning album, might even be mid-80s. I can't recall off the top of my head. 1983, I think. That's my favorite part of making these videos, is it forces me to be thinking off the cuff, telling you just stream of consciousness style, like, about these albums and what I love about them. It's a really fun challenge. I come in here about 5 seconds before I turn on the camera, comb through the recent arrivals, set aside the things that I want to talk about, and then I just pull them all out and talk about them willy-nilly. So bear with me. I promise to give you as much factual information as I possibly can, all while showing as many records as possible. Sorry about that. My alarm went off and it stopped the recording. So anyway, back to it. Leonard Cohen, one of the greatest singer-songwriters of all time, and we have the majority of his early catalog here for you. We love Leonard Cohen. We know you do too. This might be my favorite one here, man. This song is so good. Is This What You Wanted off of New Skin for the Old Ceremony is such an incredible song. Highly recommend checking that out if you haven't already. But you probably already have. You have discerning tastes and you like good things. You like this channel, so you must have amazing taste. Wow, Steve Albini, what a legend. His early punk band, Big Black, is one of the greatest bands of their era. The Hammer Party is not their most lauded album, but this record is amazing. And just, yeah, so saddened to hear about the loss of Steve Albini. The independent music world will never be the same. I highly recommend Big Black, Shellac. He was just an amazing musician, an amazing sound engineer, and just a unique and important individual in the music world. So, yeah, the Hammer Party. It's hard not to get a little emotional talking about that. So we'll change gears and talk about Jan, or Jan, I'm assuming, Hammer. I don't think I've ever heard his name pronounced. There's an incredible song on this album. I think it's called What It Is, if I'm not mistaken. Absolutely stunning. If you go to Spotify, the top hit for melodies and the Jan Hammer group will come up and it'll knock your socks off. Sounds like the best library recording you've never heard, except it's not a library recording. It's proper, album cut, deep cut. Brian Jonestown Massacre. Say what you will about Anton. Dig is an incredible documentary. It's hard not to love this music. I love Loop and Spaceman 3 and music that sounds like that. And Brian Jonestown Massacre were very heavily influenced, obviously, by those groups. And every time that comes on, even though I'm not actively seeking a Brian Jonestown Massacre album because of Anton mostly and his reputation and just the way he acts in the documentary, the music speaks for itself. The Clash, self-titled debut, absolute classic punk record. I'm just gonna rip through a whole bunch of these. We got a bunch more Cure in this week's recent arrivals. We got Kate Bush, a bunch of Kate Bush. This is maybe my favorite. Kick Inside, Hounds of Love, second favorite, I believe. Brian Eno, we have already talked about him in this video and many other videos. Here Come the Warm Jets. This is probably my favorite solo album of his. Such an incredible record. We talked about Brian Eno's ambient music. This is one of his ambient albums. It's called Music for Films and is very soothing. Everybody loved Bjork, right? Like, it's just, she's so amazing. And yeah, I don't need to say anything. You already know about Bjork. Charisma, however, you may not know about. This is a really great, like, new wave minimal synth band. They're European. I can't remember what country they're from off the top of my head. But anyway, yeah, this album, Hibernation, and their other LP, Chinese Restaurant, are highly recommended. Blue Nile, another really great 80s new wave album. This has a really chill vibe to it. Also, the chillest of vibes, Ned Doheny, for the next time you are partying on a yacht. Nick Cave, this is The Firstborn is Dead. Amazing. Everybody loves Nick Cave, and I will say, even as a guy who's not a massive Nick Cave fan, I saw him perform live with Grinderman, I think it was once. I really like that first Grinderman album. Anyway, Nick Cave is one of the most, what's the word for alluring frontmen. He's captivating to see perform live. I highly recommend checking out any one of his groups. Here's an obscure 80s album. This is Fad Gadget. This is really fun stuff. If you've never heard Fad Gadget and you're into post-punk and new wave, you should highly recommend, or you should definitely check that out. ASAP with the Fad Gadget. You don't see those records over here super often, but when we go over to Europe, we find them there occasionally. This is one of my favorite Byrds albums, called the Notorious Byrd Brothers. If you like cosmic American music, yeah, this is stunning stuff. Subtly psychedelic, just really enjoyable stuff. This, if you can hear what's on in the background, this is Bo Hansen. I've talked about Bo Hansen before. I will talk about him again. Amazing Swedish musician. Unfortunately no longer with us, thanks to a comment that I got on a previous video. But he has a bunch of albums, and this is The Magician's Hat. Just amazing, vibey, instrumental keyboard music. All right, here comes Another big grip. Let's do this a little at a time here. I'm running out of time. I gotta go take the recycling down the street, and we gotta open the shop here shortly. So, Gato Barbieri, one of the most amazing and underrated jazz musicians there is. I have no idea why Gato's records, even the Impulse titles, aren't more valuable. His catalog is absolutely stunning, and I don't think those records will remain cheap for a long time. You may recognize this guy here. That's Eddie Grant. Eddie Grant did the very popular song in the 80s, Electric Avenue. Well, before all that, he was in this great band, this great multicultural band called The Equals. This is killer, danceable freak beat. Just such an amazing album, an amazing band that put out a bunch of amazing records, and they're almost all their songs could have been hits. They all weren't hits, but they could have been. And yeah, highly recommend that. Here's a second copy of the aforementioned Scrabbling at the Lock. We got John Fox's The Garden and I wanted to say Metamaniac, but it's Metamatic. This is really killer 80s new wave, kind of a minimal synth vibe on this one, especially if you like Gary Newman. You gotta check this out. John Fox was also in Ultravox, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I'm not getting my wires crossed there. I'm sure I'll hear about it in the comments if I am. Flying Burrito Brothers, another amazing country rock record by them. The Gilded Palace of Sin debut and Hot Burrito, all in recent arrivals right now. 60s French pop songstress, France Gall, love her so much. She and Françoise Hardy and Sylvia Vartan, just so many amazing artists from mid to late 60s France in the pop scene, yee girl scene, some of which, like Brigitte Bardot, was produced by this guy, Serge Gainsbourg. Then over to Germany, we got Holger Zucke from Cannes. This is an album of his called Movies. It's got tracks, I believe, that were mostly featured in movies. And Cool in the Pool is featured on that one. Absolutely amazing stuff. I love krautrock. I love Cannes. I love the solo projects. So on and so forth. I love it all. Can't you tell? I love modern music too. This isn't like super modern, but from a few years back, Morgan Delt. This came out on Sub Pop, and that's an amazing modern psych record. Really great, like throwback vibey. If you like Tame Impala and that sort of thing, you got to check out Morgan Delt. Communicant too. I talked about them in the last video. They're kind of swimming in the same waters. Here's Françoise Hardy from the 60s French pop scene that Gainsbourg and Bardot and France Gall all came out of. Sadly, Françoise Hardy died not too long ago too. It's really, really sad to see some of these incredible musicians go, but c'est la vie. If you haven't heard Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac, this is early Fleetwood Mac before Stevie Nicks. You gotta check this out. They were a straight up blues rock band back in the day, kind of psyche at times. The Green Monalishi is an amazing psych album, or I'm sorry, song from that era. Anyway, this is a good primer right there. John Cale from the Velvet Underground, his album Fear. This might be my favorite solo album of his. He did a bunch of great solo records. You can never go wrong with a Numero Group comp. This one's fantastic. And also on the Cosmic American Music tip, we got No Other by Gene Clark. There truly is no other album like this one. This is an amazing record, and everyone I know that has heard this album loves it. You will too if you have not. Check it out ASAP. This is Tracy Chapman, the album, the debut with Fast Car on it. Everybody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about this. This is the Temple City Kazoo Orchestra. This includes an all kazoo version of the Led Zeppelin classic, Whole Lotta Love. We love oddball records like that around here as well. And then you got Alex Chilton from Big Star, his solo album Like Flies on Sherbet. That's an amazing album. This is some unhinged rock and roll stuff right there. Okay, I'm running out of time. I gotta open the shop. Just showing off a few more highlights before we get to it. Neil Young's on the Beach. I think today is the 50th anniversary of this classic. Congratulations, Neil Young, on being one of the greatest musicians of all time, greatest singer-songwriters. I love Tonight's Night, I love On the Beach, I love Harvest. Neil Young's catalog is incredible. I love Zuma. So many great albums. I also love Trans, which we'll talk about in another video. And then we got a whole slew of Kinks albums in the mix. I love the Kinks, even though they're one of the biggest bands of all time, rock bands from the 60s anyway. They don't get enough love. They were just so good, and they deserve more love than they get. So I'm here to give them a little more love. All right, gonna rip through these real quick. Sandinista by The Clash, the triple LP. We got some LA Paisley Underground by Dream Syndicate. The Clash. Again, The Clash. This is the Young Ones doing a fake metal album under the name Bad News. If you haven't seen the Young Ones, I highly recommend that TV show. Just absolutely hilarious stuff. Albert Eiler, we got a few Albert Eiler albums in the mix. This week, we got Edgar Broughton Band. If you've never heard this power trio, these guys were amazing. The singer has kind of like a howling wolf kind of growl, but the band rocks. This is such good heavy rock music from the late 60s and early 70s. Go watch the footage of them performing on German TV. The song is Love in the Rain. It will blow your mind. Another classic Peter Green era Fleetwood Mac album. Whew, stunning. We got a bunch of Tom Waits in the mix as well. I don't have time to get into Tom Waits right now, and I'm pretty sure y'all already know all about Tom Waits. If not, do some research. It's amazing stuff. Stevie Wright, he was the singer from the Easy Beats. This is his album, solo album, Hard Road. It's really, really groovy stuff. Highly recommend checking that out if you like hard rock from the 70s. David Bowie Lodger got thrown in the mix there. And then we got another copy of Fear, another copy of Tracy Chapman, and Rain Dogs, my favorite Sparks album. This is Number One in Heaven, produced by Giorgio Moroder. It's really great electronic vibes. Another copy of Melodies by the Jan Hammer Group, and an amazing free jazz album, On Impulse by Albert Eiler. And last but not least, my arm's getting tired from holding up this stack of records, Alice Coltrane and Carlos Santana, Illuminations. Whew, that's not it, but those are the highlights from this week's recent arrivals. Thank you again for watching this video and for subscribing to this channel. If you want to stay in touch with us between videos, come and follow us on Instagram. We're at Permanent Records LA over there, and we offer records up for sale 7 nights a week. All right, until next time, cheers, y'all.